Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here, and today we'll be in a baking competition where we'll be gathering ingredients from bowls, mixing them together, putting them in the oven, and baking them to get awarded. But throughout this, it's certain that you'll be making a big mess. The more recipes you complete, the more skillful you become, and the more cooking points you'll receive. Today we're taking a look at Sweet Mess from Big Kid Games. It's 2 to 4 players, ages 10 and up, takes about 45 to 60 minutes to play. Now it's on Kickstarter right now, so I'm going to give you an overview of the game, and then I'll see you on the other side. Now this is a Kickstarter preview, so all the components I'm showing you here are prototype. You're going to want to check the Kickstarter page to see all the final components. Now at the beginning of the game, each player gets their own chef tray of their own color, and they get to select a chef. There's 4 of them to select from, and you would just select one of these and place it right on your chef tray like this. And over the course of the game, you're going to be storing ingredients on your pastry bench here. You're going to be taking actions here. Now here's the main board. We have different bowls, and they start with different types of ingredients that you'll be using to try to create recipes. So you'll be gathering those ingredients to suffice different recipes that you'll be able to get, and some of them will go in your oven, some of them will score right away. The game goes in clockwise order, and during a player's turn, the main thing they'll be doing is taking actions. Actions are taken from these spots here by placing one of these pieces here, and when you do this, you'll take that action. In subsequent turns, you won't be able to take this action again. You have to select one of these other 3 during your turn, and on a subsequent turn, you'll select another one, and on maybe your 4th turn, you will be forced to select this one, and at the end of 4 turns, these will all clear off, so you have a certain order or which ones are available until they're all filled to get those actions back again. So let's talk about some of these different actions. This one here is a basic pick. Now remember, you're trying to take ingredients to try to suffice different recipes that are up here. Now when you do a basic pick, you're going to take all the ingredients of any of these bowls and you're going to place them into your pastry bench. Now when you do so, you have to select an empty pastry bench. You cannot split them between pastry benches. They all have to go into one and one that's open, and each one can only hold 4 ingredients. So I'd place them like that. Now the game's called Sweet Mess for a reason. Most of the time when you interact with these bowls with actions and abilities, you're going to make a mess. You look at the bowl that you just took from, and it makes a mess in the 4 up, down, left, right orthogonal areas next to it. So this was these ones here. So it would make a mess and spill into all these other bowls, and then this would flip over to a new type. Now at the end of your turn, you might be able to flip over some of these tools. Notice they're grayed out to start. At the end of your turn, if you have any ingredients in that pastry bench, you'll flip this over, which will now be in color, and you'll be able to activate this on future turns. Now it would be the next player's turn, but I'm just going to go through all the other different actions to show you how things go. This one is a crafty pick. Now with the crafty pick, you get to take one ingredient from 2 different adjacent bowls. So these 2 are adjacent. I can take one ingredient from both of these. This is the only main action that does not cause a mess. So let's say we put it here and we flip this over at the end of our turn, activating that tool. Now let's say we did this one. This one is called a prudent pick. So I could choose to maybe make a mess from here. So like normal, we'd make a mess. By the way, it can never be more than 4 of these on a tile. So if there's already 4 and you make a mess, you just don't put one on that tile. And then this bowl would flip over, but the things that are there, the ingredients, would just stay there as well. So that's the first part of that pick. And then you could choose any bowl during this prudent pick to then take the ingredients and make a mess. So I'm going to take these 4. And we're going to make a mess from here. 1, 2, 3, and then this will flip over like normal. So I decided to put it in the last open pastry bench. Now, anytime during your turn, you can fulfill a recipe given the ingredients that you have here. So I could, from my pastry bench, turn these into the supply and get this recipe because I have fulfilled it. Now, this one doesn't have any timing. It doesn't have to go in the oven. It's just done because it doesn't need to be baked. So it just goes here. These will be the amount of points I'll get at the end of the game for that. Now, some of the recipes, if I was able to do this one, has a timer on it. That shows me where in my oven I need to place it. Now, I haven't told you this yet, but at the beginning of your turn, all of your recipes that are here get closer to the end. And then on the turn that it's here at the beginning of your turn, this will go off and now it's scored. Now, this is important because let's say this was here, and I wanted to fulfill this recipe. I had all the good things for it. I can't place it here because it's also a 2 and this spot of my oven is already full. So I'd have to wait a turn, push this here, and hope this one was still available and turn in the ingredients to put it in an open slot. Then that ingredient will get replaced here from the deck. There's a certain amount of these cards depending on the amount of players in the game. Also, anytime an ingredient is taken, this timer moves up a certain spot, and then depending on the amount of players, after it reaches a certain level, an event will come up. And they allow you to do different things, like in this case, it would have you place this ingredient on all of the different bowls, of course making sure you don't have more than 4. Sometimes they'll do something like this: whoever has the least amount of points gets one of these super ingredients. These are essentially ingredients that can be used for anything. And there's actually one bowl of super ingredients at the beginning of the game that starts up like that. And let's just show you the last possible action. Remember, you're only taking one of these on your turn, but that is a planned pick. And here you can swap ingredients. With the bowl that you're going to take from, you can swap one ingredient from that bowl with one adjacent bowl. So I'm going to take from here, I can swap this with this, then I can take all of these, and then we would make a mess like normal. There's 4 here, so we wouldn't do anything there, and then we'd flip that up. Now, over the course of the game, as you get different recipes, you can gain masteries in certain ingredients. Anytime you have 2 of the same type of ingredient on the recipes you've finished, you get to flip that different ingredient over, and now it's in color. It's going to give you a point at the end of the game. And for every recipe going on forward, you basically always have 1 chocolate, or it's 1 chocolate less to do it because you have a mastery in chocolate. Now, earlier I showed you these different tools that and how to activate them. So during your turn, if they're activated like this, you can use your marker and activate one of these bench tools. Now, the stand mixer allows you to swap any 3 ingredients, they have to be at least 2 different types, for a super ingredient. So I could take this one out and these 2 out, and then I can add a super ingredient from the supply to any of my pastry benches, even ones that are occupied. Or you could place it in one like this. Now, at the end of your turn, you would be removing this because you can only activate one of these on your turn. Now, the mixing bowls allow you to rearrange your pastry bench any way you see fit. You can remove ingredients to the supply. You can rearrange and move these around any way you see fit. And using the kitchen cart allows you to, when you pick ingredients, you can place them on your kitchen cart. This is sort of an extra place, and you can use ingredients from here to do recipes. You can also get baking bonuses. Now, we have baking bonus points, so we're given one of these at the beginning of the game, but you can get more of these by doing specific things when you fulfill recipes. Like this first one is called Creative. You can put any 2 ingredients that are not on the recipe, and if you put those to the supply while you do that, you get an extra bonus point. You could be a perfectionist, and you could add this +2 timer to any recipe, and it essentially adds +2 to where it normally would. It still has to be able to go, meaning it's an empty slot, but that would get you 2 more of those baking bonus points. And being tidy, if you clear all 3 spots in your pastry bench when you do a recipe, you'll get 2 bonus points. Now, these are used as currency to spend to activate some other tools. Now, these open tools can be used anytime during your turn, and you can spend specific bonus points as we showed you to activate them. If you activate this, you spend 1, and then you could actually spend 2 more and activate this, but once these have been activated, you cannot do them again. So each one of these can be used up to 2 times. These measuring spoons allow you to swap any pastry bench ingredients with any bowl out on the board, as long as it's the same number of ingredients and they go back to that same pastry bench. Using the baking torch allows you to speed up one of the recipes in your oven to the right 1 spot, but that spot does have to be empty in order to do that. The prepping bowls allow you to reserve a recipe that's out on the board that other people might get. You tuck it under your little chef table here, and then when you complete this, you do it as normal. Either put it in the oven if it can, or if it doesn't have an oven timer over here. But if you don't do this, it's worth minus points at the end of the game. And the pastry tongs allow you to take any 1 ingredient that's not a super ingredient and put it on any 3 of your pastry benches, whether it's full or not. Now this continues players taking clockwise turns until the last recipe card comes up, and then we start the beginning of the end of the game. Each of these would get a timer token, and each of the bowls would get one of their ingredients as well. And then once any 2 of these have been taken and scored, that's the end of the game. And then when we score, you'll get points, 1 point for each of the stars on your completed recipes, and then you'll get some set collection points. For example, if you have 3 different recipe types, known by these icons here, you'll get 1 point. If you have 3 recipes of the same type, you'll get 2 points. And if you have 5 different recipe types, you'll get 5 points. You'll also get a point for every 3 of your baking bonus points that you didn't use, and a point for each of the masteries you've gotten. And if you have some incomplete recipes in the oven, you turn those into the baking bonus points, and then the player with the most points wins. In case of a tie, the player with the most masteries wins. If they're still tied, the one with the most bonus points wins. And if it's still tied, they share the victory. Well, there you have Sweet Mess. Now, as I mentioned, this game's on Kickstarter right now. And the things I think this game has going for it are, first of all, art and theme. I love games that have to do with food making, And everything here is thematic. You're placing things in the bowls, you're making messes, you're taking different actions. The really cool components of placing those different ingredients in those little trays, very cool components, has a lot of good table presence here. And for a 45 to 60 minute game, even though there's just a few different actions that you're taking throughout the game, the way that those trigger and the way that you have to do them all before they reset gives you a lot of different things to do, but it also makes you think deeply. So it's a game that has simple mechanisms, but has a lot of depth as things go, and you're trying to figure out the puzzle as you go. So if you want to learn more, I've placed the link to that Kickstarter project below me in the description of this video, and that's where you can go learn more and possibly even pledge. And I'm sure the people at Big Kid Games would love your support.